This is a book bull summary of the book Beyond Order by Jordan B. Peterson. Jordan B. Peterson, a clinical psychologist, identified modern society as having an excess of chaos in his book 12 Rules for Life. And what was his advice? To impose a little order, everyone should cultivate personal responsibility. However, the first 12 rules only told half of the story. In the book Beyond Order, Peterson proposes methods we can use to avoid the uncertainty and worry that come with chaos and prevent the breakdown that come with order. So what does he say? Number 1. Social institutions are essential to an individual's success. Early psychologists believed that our ID, ego, and superego were 3 powerful psychological powers that were concealed with each individual. These forces roughly correlated with our primal drives, sense of self, and probably higher social calling. The fact is that nobody that thinks grows alone. Social beings as we are, the social structures in our world helps us maintain our mental health. We can lessen the complexity of the environment and more quickly determine the appropriate course of action by turning your attention to these external forces. As you develop, you pick up new abilities, information, and experiences that make it easier for you to live in the world. You also learn when to criticize or break societal norms when they are insufficient. Number 2. Imagine the person you want to be, then try to be that person. You can become anything or anyone you want by having a clear vision and taking a committed action. With your life, you can create something new. But first, you need a vision that inspires you. This could be the drive to reach a goal, to produce art, or to provide an important scientific solution. Next, you have to face those psychological forces that keep you back. These may be a lack of self-control, a fear of failure, or a desire for any number of vices. As long as you don't lose sight of your objective, you'll eventually learn to control these forces and become the hero of your own story. Number 3. Don't settle for small pains if they can be fixed. One thing you should know is that minor irritations eventually turn into major issues if we ignore them. We should learn to accept minor discomforts if it can be fixed. According to therapist Dr. Peterson, many of us conceal unpleasant emotions because we don't know how to handle them. The solution to this would be to be more proactive in handling the problems. You should try to tackle them as soon as they come up rather than wait for an inevitable explosion. Number 4. Taking on responsibility could be difficult, but it brings meaning to life. Peter Pan is definitely one of the most adored children's characters of all time. He possesses all the good qualities of being a youngster as well as the challenges of adulthood. Any adult in the real world who attempts to live his carefree lifestyle would come across as odd and sad, but becoming a hook isn't ideal either. So we need to strike a balance to get the best out of life. As we grow older, we assume an increasing number of obligations. The truth is, life has value when one is willing to accept these kind of responsibilities. So find duties and positions that need to be filled at work or in your community, and take it upon yourself to fill them. Number 5. Don't tolerate something you hate. Many of us try to put up with things we really hate rather than speaking for ourselves. The world frequently demands that we behave in ways we don't necessarily agree with, and sometimes due to the circumstance or lack of conviction, we feel compelled to go against our own consciences. But the society should not have to succumb to a moral framework we hate. So, how should we respond to commands we don't like? One way to do this is to disagree with the order, and you should also be ready to deal with the aftermath, because such actions undoubtedly cause some chaos. If there may be serious societal consequences for not fitting in, then you can just leave and take care of your own responsibilities. At first it may seem like a surrender or retreat, but the thing is, that will help you discover people who share your values. The final result will be better. Number 6. Be wary of all ideologies, especially ones with simple answers. Our world has been invaded with many ideologies, and while many of them are well-meaning, they all share the flaw of oversimplifying reality and attributing problems to vague villains like class, sexism, or power imbalance. Believing in this ideology usually leads to a hostile sort of resentment called ressentiment. Ressentiment usually keeps people from becoming the best version of themselves, and so is very risky. It makes one to be resentful to anyone who appears to be successful. It portrays their success as illegitimate or, worse still, as suppressing the successes of others. Consequently, you develop a victim attitude. Instead of working on themselves, the resentful person just simply buries their resentment. And although this may feel exciting at first, it would never lead to a truly satisfying life. Number 7. Truly commit yourself to a goal and you'll love the results. A lump of coal only becomes a diamond when it is subjected to extreme pressure and heat. Well, the same rule applies to people. When you dedicate yourself to a task, you'll be pleased with the outcome. According to psychoanalysts, our love for short-term satisfaction comes from our ID. This portion of our psyche holds our physical desires as well as our chaotic feelings like fear and anger. When these forces override our conscious mind, or ego, it's difficult for us to stay motivated. But if we commit ourselves to a goal, then we can still reign over these chaotic forces. Number 8. Always make room for beauty, even if it's just in one room. Jordan Peterson emphasized the value of tidying one's room in his book 12 Rules for Life. He cleaned up his academic office at the University of Toronto, and although his act of aesthetic expression was risky at first, it ultimately paid off. A single great painting has the ability to communicate profound thoughts, invite important self-reflection, and awaken the viewer's spirit to divine feeling. You would see the world in a new light when you engage with provocative or compelling works. So you should always keep your eye open for new forms of beauty you can surround yourself with. Number 9. Investigate and examine any memory that causes you pain. We sometimes have painful late-night flashbacks, and it feels like our brain is tormenting us, but this is not the case. We develop the ability to remember things for a good reason. They help us to avoid repeating the same mistakes. If you examine your previous experiences, you will be able to learn from them and turn a difficult situation into an opportunity. For instance, your understanding of the world was quite simple when you were younger, and you were only able to do these things in the most basic terms. But when you look back on some events as an adult, you will see you perceive things differently now. Face your terrible memories head on rather than letting them consume you. Eventually, you'll draw a lesson from them which you can apply in the future. Number 10. Put effort and planning into your intimate relationships. You see, happy marriages don't happen by accident. Both spouses must work at maintaining an intimate and caring relationship. It takes effort to keep a romantic relationship going. More specifically, it entails the constant work of compromise and confidence. It is important for each partner to focus on their own needs, wants, and desires before communicating them to the other. Sharing these private facts requires trust, which can only be established over time by successfully negotiating small concessions. Always schedule private time and physical intimacy with your partner, even if you have to schedule it like a meeting. Although, at first it may seem formal, but the love and connection it generates are just as sincere. Number 11. Don't fall for stories that make you resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. As humans, we have developed stories for thousands of years to understand the world. Even as adults, we use narrative to make sense of the world. The universe in our imaginations is populated with characters, places, dramatic arcs, conflicts, and resolutions. It is extremely necessary to tell ourselves the truth, since the stories we tell ourselves influence our behaviour and mentality. We need to stop believing stories that incite resentment, dishonesty, or arrogance. People who are resentful look for whatever advantage they can get, including lying, cheating, and other dishonest behaviours. These shrewd methods have a bad effect on self-confidence. Number 12. Be grateful, even in the face of suffering. Psychologists have studied how people cope with distress and discovered that they do this in various ways, realizing that good and bad are equally possible in one way. What the writer tries to say here is that for every low everyone might be facing, it was because there was a previous high, so we should try to remember why this was even possible. Losing a loved one, for instance, hurts so much because they offered love, support, and kindness. Even the death of someone we haven't liked would cause grief, because it will remind us of what good they also contained. So, when you experience moments of suffering, it will be good to remember why they were possible. Be grateful for the insight and perspective difficulty can deliver. So at the end of this book, we have learned that committing ourselves to our goals, taking responsibilities, and probably above all, being grateful in the face of suffering, avoiding the uncertainty that comes with chaos. What's your most important key takeaway? Please comment down below and share the video if you like it. Thank you, and until next time.